It was 1 year ago today when Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus finally escaped Ariel Castro's house on Seymour Avenue in Cleveland after being held against their will for a decade. To mark the anniversary of their freedom, both Berry and DeJesus have released statements thanking supporters and expressing hope for the future. Michelle Knight talked about her recovery with CNN's Anderson Cooper.
Did you ever think about screaming or yelling?
I screamed, but nobody would hear it. There was a day that I screamed until I had no voice. Still nobody heard it. And when he hears you scream, he just shoves a sack or a cloth down your throat until you choke on it.
Did you think that this would at some point end, that it wouldn't go on, that he would let you go? Did he promise that he would let you go?
No, he told me he'll never let me go.
He said that from the beginning?
Yes. He said, you don't have a family that cares about you. If I kill you right now, nobody would even care.
For the first several months, she was kept in what she refers to as the dungeon, the basement of the house on Seymour Avenue. Sitting on the ground, she was chained to a pole, gagged with a sock and a motorcycle helmet placed over her head. All the while, the abuse continued.
What would you think about each day? I mean, just to get through.
I'll basically think about my son and how I would like to see his loving smile again.
I want to bring in now clinical psychologist Erik Fisher. Erik, you know, we all watched how Michelle Knight, who's been very public all along, how she responded right after she was released. We heard a lot of sort of positivity, I think, in the wake of the relief of being released. But now you sort of see her, she's really confronting the gravity of the situation that she was in. How does she appear, in your expert opinion, to be coping here a year later?
Well, I think, you know, what I look at as a person's their ideal self they present to the world often, and the real self and their feel self inside. You know, for her presenting on the news with all these interviews, she has to get herself up for this. But for people who have been through that much trauma, I can't speak specifically about her, but for doing this for 20 years and people have been through trauma, there's often a whole inner life of turmoil that they're working through for years to come. So to see her courage, her strength, her ability to forgive, those are all great moderating factors, as well as being held captive with two other people was another moderating factor, you know, that she had through the years.
And the strength that she shows as she's able to describe what happened, you know, in a way to bring to light, I think, what Ariel Castro really was. It is amazing that she can do that, and she stands there, sits there so strongly. One of the things that she's doing now, she's actually using the name Lily. Is that significant to you, that she's using a different name?
Yeah, I think it is, and even that her Lily Rose Lee is the name that she gave herself, and what I appreciate, that they're both flowers, you know, they both are a sign of birth and growth and abundance, beauty, and I think that's a really healthy thing for her to look at doing. However, often people who have been through traumas, they do want to change their identity, they do want to change their names, but what often they find out is they still can't escape what happened to them, so the healing process is so important. But again, even as she said, my early life prepared me for this, that was a really important factor that she said, that is almost like, you know, she was ready for the worst. But what I see in her is, I want to see people not just survive these experiences, but learn to thrive in their life again. And I think she can do it with the proper healing and with the proper support system around her. I think there's a very favorable outcome.
And I certainly, watching her, you hope that's the case for her. You hope that she can thrive. I imagine this, you never really recover from this, right? This is a daily battle that she will have for the rest of her life.
It may be, and she has physical issues too. You know, she's not able to have children again, so she's got the physical reminder.
She was beaten tremendously, and we understand she really bore the brunt of the abuse.
Exactly, exactly. So, you know, the ability for a person to heal, I always say, is really up to them. So may she be dealing those for the rest of her life? Yes, but I always say that, you know, either we can be a victim or a victor, and how we choose to, you know, become powerful over our situations and find our way through them, to use them as things to stand on top of, to see further. I always tell people who I work with trauma that it is an honor that they chose to work with me and trust me, because I know what they've been through and how much their trust in the world has been shattered. So to see her working on these issues and have the courage to go in front of us all and share her experience, hopefully to prevent this from other people happening, is extremely admirable and incredible to me.
She refers to Ariel Castro, who committed these heinous crimes, as the dude. She said he doesn't deserve to have a name, which sort of, I think, also, highlights as she has changed her name for a bit of a rebirth. But he killed himself in his prison cell in September. How does that impact Michelle and her and the other women? How does it impact their recovery?
It depends on what they do with it. They could in some ways feel like he, copped out of the situation and didn't have to pay the price for what he did. That's going to be up to them, really. But could it have an effect on them and how they feel and the rage they carry on? That's an individual factor that hopefully they're working through therapeutically. And she will find other levels of emotion through this. Even though she's forgiven at one level, she'll have to work through that at different levels of her healing as well, for as long as she went through that trauma.
Sure, it's a long process. Everyone certainly responds differently, but our best of luck to those girls, and also hoping that they get the best of support, as they certainly did following their release there in Cleveland. Erik Fisher, thanks for joining us.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Part 2.